Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Voices of Forestry podcast. I'm your host, Seth Stephenson, the Communications Coordinator with the Arkansas Forestry Association. And today I'm joined by not one, but two guests to talk about the Keeping It in the Family program here in the state of Arkansas. But before we get to that, I want to give a special shout out and a thank you to our sponsor this month, Deer Creek Forestry Equipment. Thank you to them for their support, and we're going to hear a little bit more from them later on in this episode. But in the meantime, like I said, I'm joined by two guests today. We have Mr. Charlie Williams, who is retired with the Natural Resources Conservation Service and is working with Task One LLC currently. And we have Joe Friend, who is a forester with the Keeping It in the Family Forestry program. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having us, Seth.
So we're going to have to I'm going to call out people. I'm not used to calling out people to talk first since I've got two of you guys with me today. But what we'd like to do is just to have you guys give a little bit of history on yourselves, if you don't mind, just who you are, what's your history in the forestry industry. So Joe, I tell you what, if you don't mind, let's start with you.
Okay, Seth. I worked for what is now the Arkansas Department of Forestry, which was the Arkansas Forestry Commission, for 34 and a half years. I worked as a county forester and then as a district forester, and I retired in 2014. Took a little time off and then went to work for the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff with the Keeping It in the Family program in 2016.
And Charlie, from what we were talking about earlier, you seem to be the one to pull Joe out of retirement here in 2016. But could you just give us a little bit of your background?
Sure. Seth, I worked for the Natural Resources Conservation Service for 44 years in various jobs. And in 2011, the Department of Agriculture started the Strike Force Initiative for Rural Growth and Opportunity. That program focused on increasing the use of USDA programs in rural communities. Arkansas was one of the trial states to try the program in. I had just finished a resource conservation and development job in Southwest Arkansas, so I was pulled up to do that. And then the U.S. Endowment for Forestry and Communities had a program going that focused on the loss of African American land. And of course, that is happening in Arkansas as well. So I contacted a number of the members of this team, the Arkansas Forestry Commission at the time, the Natural Resources Conservation Service, the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, and several others, and we started the Keeping It in the Family program.
All right. Well, that's a good segue. Charlie, if you could, let's just talk about what exactly the program is. When we talk about Keeping It in the Family, what are we talking about exactly?
We are talking about African Americans, keep your land in the family. What the statistic that we primarily use to focus on the question that you just asked is that in 1910, African Americans own and it's stated from 16 to 19 million acres of land. By the time this program started around 2016, African Americans was down to less than 4 million acres of land. And that's why we called it the Keeping It in the Family program, encouraging the African Americans to keep their land in the program. But however, one of our primary sponsors of this program is the Natural Resources Conservation Service. Their tagline is, help people, help the land. And so we added a little tagline unto that, help people, help the land to help the people. And so if the land is helping the people, you'll more likely keep the land in the family.
Okay. And if you don't mind, let's talk about that history. So from 1910, I guess, what was the root cause, or there's probably multiple causes, but what was the big issue with African American families losing all of this land?
Access to resources. Of course, majority of this land was not in forestry. Much of it at that time was in row crop production. And so unable to get funds to put your crop in, unable to pay your taxes on the land, unable to get the machinery that you need. Many times actually being swindled out of your land. And so ultimately all of those negative situations coming together end up boiling down to the loss of over 80% of the land.
So with a family that's coming in to this program, what does the process look like for you guys on y'all's end? What do you do when a family has come in to try to be a part of keeping it in the family?
A landowner profile. We have to get information on the land. Okay. This landowner profile will certainly give us contact information for the family. It will let us know where the land is, and then we put our team in place. We call ourselves an extension to whichever agency we're working with. We primarily give out assistance. There are federal programs that provide resources to the landowner. And so they are primarily the Natural Resources Conservation Service and the Farm Service Agency. And however, the Arkansas Department of Forestry is a resource provider to the Natural Resources Conservation Service that write the forestry management plans so to help you become eligible or more likely to receive assistance, financial assistance that can come through the Natural Resources Conservation Service.
Okay, so you guys are working with other organizations to just help get this family or these landowners where they need to be.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay. And I guess, Joe, something, again, that we were talking about beforehand was you were saying that one of the big things that keeping it in the family needed before it started in 2016 was a forester. Can you just kind of explain to me why having that position, why needing you was an important part of this process?
Well, at that time, the program was sponsored by the U.S. Endowment for Communities and Forestry, and one of their big issues was sustainable forestry on the private landowner's property. So they felt like each organization had to have a forester on board to help make sure that was going to happen.
And so that's what you do currently, is just to help make sure. Okay, all right, awesome. So I guess my next question, we've talked about, kind of what happens when a family comes into this program, but what are the requirements to be eligible for keeping it in the family?
They have no requirements other than they either own or are an heir in ownership in land.
Okay. It was okay. That there was a bit of a trick question there. That they just need to have that information. Is there an application process with you guys, or
just fill out the landowner profile form? It's a 3-page form that gives us information on them and their property, so that we have their contact information. Where we can find the land, and then we go from there. Usually we go out and do a site visit on their property, kind of get a idea of what their needs are. Then we talk to them to see what their goals are, and then work with the Department of Forestry to get a management plan prepared for their property. And we should mention, we've got several team members that work in the program. One of our team members, Lavelle Foote, also retired from the NRCS office. And Lavelle is excellent about making sure landowners have all the right forms filled out and everything to get assistance. So we all work together whenever it's possible. We all go make the site visits together, but that's not always possible. But we all work together to try to meet the landowners' needs and help them make sustainable forestry on their property.
So a lot of kind of what we've talked about here on this show with forest management and coming up with a plan seems to be what you guys are doing here with these families coming into the program. So that's excellent to hear. That's awesome.
Yes, we do. We do the initial footwork a lot of times to get started, but in order to get the cost share assistance through the NRCS, their management plan has to come through the forestry department. And so we try to work with county foresters to get them to do the plan for the landowners.
Okay. And I guess one thing that I want to touch on here real quick before we move on is a lot of folks may be scared to ask questions or maybe concerned that they don't maybe fit into this program. What's something that you guys could say to them to maybe assuage those fears?
Very reluctant because of the previous things that we talked about. And of course, Seth, one of the things I say is look at me. I am not out here to take your land. Look at me. And that helps get it started off right well. And, we almost use pressure tactics when you're saying that you're coming out here to take our land. Absolutely not. And we just overpower them with concern for the land. We've have shown so much concern for them getting into programs. They asked us, what's in it for you? And Seth, this is, and I know this is with Joe too, we just have a genuine desire for people to benefit from the land that they own. And if I believe that is the emotion that helped to get these 148 forestry management plans written. These agencies may have not written that many management plans in the whole history of the agency. We've done it in just a few years. We call our assistance to the landowners intensive care. Now, the technical and financial assistance, a lot of this comes from the agencies, but Seth, they just do not have the time to provide this intensive care that we are doing, and that is what has helped to make the program successful.
And that's another thing that we try to strive to let people know on this show is that there are people like yourselves out there that want to help people manage their land. They're, no ulterior motives, no nothing. They just want to help make the land better and make sure that you have the tools to do so.
Right. And one thing that helps us with landowners, everything we do is at absolutely no cost to the landowner. Of course, that's true also with NRCS and the Division of Forestry, but usually they're limited on time because they have so many landowners they have to work with, where we have a little more time being specialized, where we can kind of hold landowners' hands and make sure they get everything that needs to be done accomplished.
Okay. All right. Well, guys, I think this is probably a good spot for us. We've got some more questions I want to ask y'all, but real quick, we're going to take a moment to hear from our sponsor this month, Deer Creek Forestry Equipment. Don's Diesel Service was founded in the early 1970s by Don Hawkins. The business started by working on Detroit engines. Shortly after he started his business, he invited his brother-in-law, Shelby Taylor, to buy half the business. They began selling Lucky Log loaders. In the early 1990s, Don's Hydraulic Equipment was formed, and they began selling a full line of forestry equipment by Prentice Hydro Axe. After Don passed away in 2021, Bobby Taylor bought out his Uncle Don's part of the business and became partners with his dad, Shelby. They rebranded the business and formed Deer Creek Forestry. They are now proud to be dealers of Whaler Forestry products. Deer Creek sells forestry equipment and parts from all of the following brands: Whaler, Prentice, Rotobeck, Cummins, CSI, Oregon, Ballantine, and Riggs Cat. Deer Creek Forestry Equipment is your one-stop shop for all your forestry equipment needs. Whether you need to purchase a new piece of equipment or just fix the piece of machinery you have, Deer Creek is here for you. We want to give another shout out and thank you once again to Deer Creek Forestry Equipment for their sponsorship of this month's episode. So gentlemen, let's hop back into the Keeping It in the Family program, if you don't mind. One thing I did want to talk about real quick was that one of you guys mentioned that all of the services that you provide are free to the landowner. So how are you guys able to make that free to the landowner?
Again, we are an extension of the people that we support. For instance, the Natural Resources Conservation Service. I am supported by a grant from the Natural Resources Conservation Service, the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff honors that agreement. And so that's how I'm able to go out without any expense to the landowner.
And the majority of our funding comes through the American Forest Foundation, who took over the program after the U.S. endowment.
And they currently have the program now, yes. American Forest Foundation. Yes. Okay, all right. Well, let's move on here, if you don't mind. So another thing that we were kind of talking about here a little bit earlier was some of the barriers that landowners might face, especially landowners who again, like you mentioned, Joe, haven't seen the will or the deed to the land since their great grandfather had it. So I guess what are some of the barriers that you guys are seeing with these families coming in asking for your help?
In a lot of cases, one of the barriers is not having the property surveyed, not knowing where the lines or even the corners for the property are. A lot of the landowners we work with actually live in other states and have kind of inherited the land through either heir property or outright inherited it, but maybe not have ever seen the land or maybe see it once a year and not really know where their boundary lines are. And in order to get most forestry work done on the property, the boundaries have to be marked. And so through grant money from the American Forest Foundation, we are helping pay for the surveying on a lot of these properties.
Okay. And once they have that, that's kind of a good, I guess, starting point. Correct. To get the other services.
Yes.
And Seth, I'd like to add to that, to get assistance from the United States Department of Agriculture, especially the Farm Service Agency and the Natural Resources Conservation Service, you have to show that you have control of the land. That control of the land can be shown by you have the deed to the land, or you have a rental agreement to operate the land. However, that brings back in heir property. No one has control of the land in heir property unless all the heir property members get together and designate someone. So one of the barriers that we assist with is helping people work through that heir property issue. Okay. And so working through that heir property issue to determine who has control of the land, then they are able to get what we call a farm number from the Farm Service Agency. And once you get that farm number, that opens you up to funds to help you install conservation practices on your land from the Natural Resources Conservation Service. And Seth, you assist in providing this assistance as well. Every 5 years, our congressional delegation get together and fund what we call the Farm Bill. Yeah. And all funds that comes to the basic program that assists the Natural Resources Conservation Service is called the Environmental Quality Incentive Program. That is where funds go to install the conservation and practices on the land. And what we're asking landowners to do is to partner with the United States Department of Agriculture. We can provide some financial assistance. We can provide technical assistance, and a lot of this is done assisted through the Keeping It in the Family program, and so we can help again extend the reach of these agencies by providing this type of assistance. But it all comes from the Farm Bill, and so we're informing the landowners that we are here to assist you because many of us do not have land. But all of us want the food and fiber that comes from the land. So we are desire to partner with you. And so one of the means that we use, our expressions we use to help the landowner to know that we're here for them because we need to. We need to manage your land sustainably. You know, I actually started off with the Soil Conservation Service, and it was first called the Soil Erosion Service. So we cannot allow erosion to happen because that will decrease the sustainability of the land. And once we explain all of that, now we're all teammates together.
Okay, and that's another thing that we like to talk about is, you know, no one group is working against another group here in forestry, specifically in Arkansas. We're all working as a team with the same goal, with the same things in mind to make our land better and to make it sustainable. So this is all good. Yeah, this is all good. Guys, one other thing too we were talking about was reaching out. Again, I mentioned on this program we like to tell people if you have a question, make a call. That's the best thing that you can do right at the very beginning is make a call, because programs like yourself might not know about a certain landowner family or a certain group of people until they start reaching out and you know that the need exists there. So what's the best thing that people can do to get in touch with you guys?
You can call us. Go ahead, Charlie. Go ahead, Charlie.
As for me, Seth, Joe and I, because of some sicknesses we've had, we're kind of we kind of receive the phone calls now and help the teammates to connect with the folks needing our assistance. So I am, again, Charlie Williams, and I actually can be reached at 870-866-7283, and I will assist you in connecting with the Keeping It in the Family program.
Also, my phone number is 870-500-8454. And I also will help anyone get connected with the program and get assistance on their property. People can also reach out to the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff Small Farms Program and get assistance through that. We also do a lot of outreach work, and we actually, prior to COVID, we were having outreach meetings, usually in a church building somewhere, where people would come to those meetings. Since COVID, we've been doing it by Zoom, and we have a lot of Zoom meetings. And that's one thing we can do also with individual families. We can set up a Zoom meeting and talk to those families wherever they are about their forest land and how we can help them with it and answer questions. We now also have a group of landowners themselves that are doing educational work for the program. So it's a growing program. Just to give you an example, that since we started, as Charlie mentioned, what was that number again?
148.
Right, 148 management plans. Just in the past year, we have reached out to 283 landowners for a total of 13,085 acres, with an average size, you might say, of 57 acres for the landowners. It's basically a small farm program in most cases. Conservation practices were completed for 5 landowners in the past year, and we helped with marking boundary lines on 2 properties and had 6 landowners for surveying jobs. And these statistics came from April the 1st, and we've had a lot of surveying done since April the 1st. So they're keeping us busy.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it for sure. And we'll make sure too that we put, if you're a little leery about calling one of the numbers, which I guarantee you shouldn't be, but if you want to see the website, we'll make sure we have the website to the program in the description of this episode that people can click on and get a little bit more information.
Thank you, Seth.
Yes, sir, absolutely. Now, as we start wrapping up here, gentlemen, one thing I did want to touch on real quick too was, and please correct me if I'm wrong, this program currently serves, is it 18 counties in Arkansas? Okay.
Yes.
And if you could explain to me why just the 18 counties? Is that just a funding thing?
Well, when the program started, they wanted to assure that we could deliver. Mm-hmm. And with the small amount of money that was given, you could not do it statewide. Mm-hmm. So we concentrated on the area of the state that had, first of all, forest land, mm-hmm. and then African American forest landowners.
Okay. So that was a targeted area then.
And the program in Arkansas started with just 7 counties. Okay. And now we have extended it to include 18 counties. Okay. We would like to extend it to some more, but the funds are just not there to do it, right?
Well, that was going to be my next question was, I guess, is there any plans for other counties to be kind of brought into the fold, but...
Not at this time, but however, if you live in another county, please give us a call anyway. We are a resource, and we, again, want all African Americans to keep the land in the family.
Right. And we can work in other counties. Just the funds for assistance that's been set aside for this program cannot be used in other counties. But we can still help landowners and help them get an application for NRCS and that type of thing.
Okay. We stretch it, Seth, as tight as we can.
Well, no, that's good that I asked then, because I was reading that on the website and saw that it was the 18, so I didn't know what the limitations of that were, or what the limitations of that was for people outside of it as well. So. Now, the last thing I want to ask you guys real quick, I know y'all mentioned that the program is in other states as well. So for those who are listening maybe outside of Arkansas, what's some advice you can give them to look into a program like this?
Check with the American Forest Foundation, and they can give them guidance to the right agency. In the other states, it's not called keeping it in the family. They each have their own specific names, but it's 8 now, counting Texas, 8 states in the Southeast that have a similar program.
Okay. And that's all just with the American Forest Foundation?
Yes.
Okay. We'll try to put a link to them as well in the description. If you are outside of Arkansas and you're curious about your state, if you're one of those 8 states, and what the program may be in your state.
An interesting sidebar, the first year after Arkansas joined the program, the endowment had a meeting in South Carolina. Mm-hmm. And after that meeting, my wife and I went on and did some touring around the country for a week or so. And on the following Sunday, we're at church services in Virginia. And there was a lady there at the church services that was visiting like we were, and we kind of got acquainted with her and told her what we were doing and everything. And she said, well, I inherited some land in Georgia. How do I find out about that in Georgia? So I gave her the name of the contact person at the endowment at that time, so she could contact them and get help in the state where she owned the land. So
right time, right place for you, right there. That's what that is. Or divine intervention, one of the two, But, well, gentlemen, is there anything else that you want to add before we kind of wrap this up here? Anything I may have forgotten to ask that y'all want to touch on real quick?
I'd just like to say that this cliche is generally not accepted well, but in this particular case, please contact us because the Department of Agriculture is really here to help you.
Okay. All right. Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for joining me today and for providing this information. To me, is a big learning experience for me. I learn a lot from these podcast episodes, but for providing that information to folks that may be listening. So I want to thank you guys for joining me.
And thank you for having us, Seth.
Absolutely. Well, we want to thank you guys for listening this month as well. Another special thank you to our sponsor this month, Deer Creek Forestry Equipment. We really appreciate their sponsorship and support of the show. I want to give a special shout out to Rob McCormick / some guy named Rob for the use of our theme song, The Same Love. That's off of his album, The Folkster. You can find more of his music on Spotify. And as always, we have a link to his music or his website in the description of this episode. And I haven't done this in a while, but I would like to ask something from you guys who are listening to rate and review us. Wherever you're listening, I know Spotify has some new stuff that you can rate and review. So let us know how we're doing. Let us know if something that could be changed, and give us your honest opinion on the show. I'd love to hear it so we can make this a better experience for everyone. And join us next month when we'll have a new topic, a new discussion, and a new Voice of Forestry.